Hi, this is Stephen Wybera. This is my Milestone 1 and 2 YouTube video. Why don't we go ahead and get started with... Which engine is this? Oh, let's get started with the animation. So, my animation system. When I run this bad boy, you will be excited to see that, well, maybe not so excited, it is still the demo version of the gimpy animation, and the reason for that is I did about 80% of the work underneath the hood. My problem was I was not getting the data to come up totally correctly, so I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did and why I think the problem, or what I think the problem is. So, inside of the FBX animation converter, inside of test, you can see that I have successfully written out the animation for humanoid and Teddy, and I also have the skeleton data coming out as separate files with their own extension. You can see they're not null, they are actually filled with data. They're not 0 kilobytes. So why don't I walk you through exactly what happened with the animation converter. So, essentially what I did was I went through and, very similar to the model converter, constructed some headers and some STL vectors, packed all the relevant data in there, including for the skeleton data, I just packed in some reference structs that you can see right here showed the bone name, the parent bone name, the bone index for parent index, mainly for once we get it back into the engine to search through the PCS tree and find the relevant nodes to make sure they are attached at the right spot to maintain the hierarchy structure. The two files we worked with were display animation and display hierarchy. Display hierarchy was primarily where we got the skeleton data. Animation obviously is where we got all the clip data and all of the frame bucket data, the bone arrays, all of those things. Display animation was quite challenging. In fact, I still think there's a few spots that I need to tweak just a little bit. Essentially we go through and the is switcher basically allows us to only take snapshots of all of the keyframes just to cut down on our data, and that allows us to use our quaternion system to interpolate, our math library to interpolate and kind of fill in those blanks. I'll allow you to go through this as your own leisure. Off to the side here, I have the FBX clip, which this is mirrored inside of my engine, so when I extract the data out, I maintain these structures so I know exactly where everything is, so I can use some pointer magic to navigate things a little bit as far as buffer parsing goes. Other than that, I did keep a somewhat similar structure of code to the demo projects with lots of modifications. I would like to go through and kind of pull all this stuff out and then just really narrow it down to a combination of the animation conversion system and the model conversion system. I also did not incorporate this as a pipeline as I did with my Milestone 1 model converter. The reason being, we had some debate about whether to package the skeleton data with animation data. Other reason being very crunched on time, and I wanted to get the thing working. Now, as far as pipelining goes, I will prove to you right now I have that set up. So for my model converter, what I had was a pipeline for each model. So I essentially went through, incorporated vodka, lick it up, package everything to the nice view file, and inside of my engine for Milestone 1, you can see I have the same package. I use the same name for the try list and the vert data. Then I delete those bins and .blows. I would have done a very similar structure with the animation system had I chose to go that route. Inside of the test folder for the model converter, I have executables Lick It Up and model converter and vodka just so everything would run nice and neatly. Again, I would have had to take that same approach with the animation converter, and I would like to combine the two going forward once I get a little more time to work on this, but where's it going with that? Oh, as far as pipelining goes, inside of Milestone 1, what I had done, I don't think I gave you a video, so I wanted to at least show you this. Inside of model shell is where I have my extract. So I would take those SPU files, pick them up and eat as long as they're in the same directory. I could even, on my model converter, retarget the output directory to include whatever asset directory I have in my engine. Then I went through and got all the data and constructed things that way. Inside of my inside of my engine, instead of using the eat function, I am just pulling things into buffers. Now, it was nice. I was able to, inside of the converter, package up. The skeleton data was pretty straightforward to pull out. Seek, tell, add the stuff to the buffer, get the clip header, parse through. Here's a print statement to check everything, make sure it works. I was able to have the clip header at the very front of the animation file, and then right after that have a frame bucket header that had all the relevant data for that particular frame, and then behind it I was able to pack in all of the bone arrays directly behind it, so I was able to just iterate through and unpack this thing through a loop based on the frame count, set up the bucket hierarchy, and then inside of there, also it's important to note here, we're adding the frame buckets to the back of one another just so we can make sure we're going in order. So when we start at the head, then we'll be starting at the first frame. There's also a nested for loop inside of, this is all inside of a method called load animation. So this is basically just loading all that stuff up. I go through, parse through using pointer logic, get the bone data, and then this is where I ended up hitting a wall and had to revert back to the demo. So inside of here, this create skeleton is where I was trying to go through and iteratively, using the skeleton data I got, construct the bone node hierarchy just by using a loop and passing in bone hierarchy, bone index, bone name. I also had incorporated a find function to find that node's parent and make sure I attach it to that particular spot. I was essentially trying to go through for something like this, where you're going through and adding each of the different bone hierarchy nodes in the appropriate spot, except this is hard-coded. What I should have done was probably hard-coded all this stuff out to begin with and then figured out my engine side of things, but I wanted to try and tackle the converter first. Whether or not that was the best decision, I don't know. I'm very close to getting this to work properly. If you'd like to run this, I'll allow you to run this at your own leisure, but the data was very close. I was really not moving on to anything else until I was sure that this data was fine. Once I was able to check to make sure that my clip data was coming out properly, that's when I went to move on to the create skeleton function. So, yeah, this has been a very fun, heavy workload quarter. I fell a bit behind with that model converter and was trying to play catch up ever since. That on top of taking over a classroom in the middle of the year for second graders. It's been fun. Still very challenging though. I'm looking forward to GameEngine 3. I'm also looking forward to being able to take a week to refactor a lot of this and clean up my architecture. I worked a lot more collaboratively with classmates towards the end. As you can see, I kind of reworked the camera system to incorporate quaternions. I worked with classmates a little more closely towards the end here. I was able to learn a lot. I feel like we have a pretty tight-knit group. I can get a lot of advice and a lot of help from them if I need it. I'm looking forward to getting the other 10-15% of my animation stuff working, making those little tweaks, bringing it all together. I would also like to get the rest of my engine architecture in place as far as a skeleton manager, an animation manager, reworking clip objects, things like that, just to clean things up a lot, get rid of a lot of these globals that we have tacked around everywhere, relink up all my libraries so everything's nice and neat and easy to debug, pragmatic programming. All those things I am hearing loud and clear. I love to do it. My problem has just been time. That being said, I don't know too many people who can manage two classes like... Oh, looks like I exited. Well, lasted a few seconds, but I don't know too many people who are able to manage kind of everything that I have on my plate right now. I am looking forward to, now that I'm kind of settled in this classroom, having some more downtime to allocate my time a little bit better when we start Engine 3 and multi-threaded. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great break.